Before heading to bed for an evening's rest, Gar decided to sit amongst the guards of the Baygrove Keep, listening for any possible gossip about the portal or Calcheth, though he didn't hear much beyond a lot of fear and uncertainty about the portal's origins and what it could mean. Mavis took some time to turn his brain up to 100 to identify the dust he'd gotten from the camp in the woods, and discovered that it was dust of disappearance, while Zeos took some time to write in his journal, and Laren took a moment to herself before heading to bed. For the entirety of the night, the party experienced the dark portal in their dreams, always in the background, always watching. But Gar had a dream that took him back to his time on his ship with his old crew. A terrible thunderstorm raged overhead. Lightning crashed in the water, illuminating the sea. Waves slammed into the ship from all sides, throwing it around like it was a rag doll. Gar's captain could barely be heard shouting orders in a desperate attempt to remain afloat, until one final wave crashed into the side of the boat, throwing Gar overboard. Just before the dream ended, with what bit of consciousness Gar had left, he looked up through the water to see his ship begin to capsize. As his eyes were drawn underwater, he barely caught a glimpse of another figure in the water with him, though he was unable to recognize any details about them. The party awoke the next morning, hearing a bit of commotion outside their room between Commander Baldric and Commander Aethys, catching the last bits of conversation of Baldric attempting to convince Aethys to let the group accompany him back to the military camp that was set up under the portal, until Aethys finally relented, choosing to trust his friend despite his own doubts. Baldric informed the group and made a point to tell them that Aethys is distrusting by nature and to not take it personally. Mavis took some time to thoroughly inspect some of the guards' weaponry to determine if it might hold any superpowered science brain ability, but unfortunately they were exceedingly mundane. The party eventually regrouped in the center of Baygrove before heading off through the grasslands with Commander Aethys and his guards. After traveling for approximately 6 hours on horseback, the group eventually arrived at the military camp approximately 10 miles outside of Calcheth. As they approached the camp, they were stopped by a massive 12-foot-tall Cyclops, who asked the group what their names were and why they were here. The group, of course, answered honestly, and so the Cyclops let them pass, until he was stopped by his companion, a human with slicked-back hair and fancy attire that introduced himself as Donovan, who insisted that the party could have been lying about their answers, and proclaimed that Gork, the Cyclops, must try again. This went on for several minutes, with Gork believing the party's every word, especially when Gar claimed that his name was also Gork, Gork's long-lost brother, which of course made Gork trust the party even more, seeing his family must be trustworthy, which only left Donovan in utter disbelief, until finally Aethys returned to clarify that the party, sadly, was with him, and so should be allowed entry. The party met with Tauren Ebenectominus, a gold dragonborn that seemed very keen to learn any information the party had to share regarding the Dark Portal. Gar introduced himself as Gar Zarash, a last name that the party had not yet heard, and Tauren recognized Zeos' name as being the same as a character from a children's novel that had something to do with a lost boy. Tauren explained that he had identified 3 tethers that were connected to the portal from different nearby areas, one of them connecting back south to the Geldenwood, which was the reason that Aethys had decided to travel south to Baygrove in the first place. Tauren explained that since he didn't know what plane the portal connects to, it could very well be harmless, and everyone's cause for concern could be entirely irrational. That is, until the party shared the origins of the portal, and the fact that it most likely connects to the Abyss, at which point a dire look of concern came over Tauren's face, as he went on to explain that portals connected to the infinite layers of the Abyss go through several stages, eventually culminating in the complete loss of the plane it's on, turning that plane into another layer of the Abyss. Tauren insisted that these tethers must be powering the portal in some way, and severing them could be the key to stopping it. When the party told Tauren of the large, shadowy gorilla creature they had seen come out of the Geldenwood, Tauren identified it as a Barlgura, a demon from the Abyss. Since one of the tethers led south to the Geldenwood, it was decided that the first order of business would be to hunt down this Barlgura and destroy it, hoping that it would sever one of the tethers to the portal, thereby weakening it. Before leaving to head back south to the Geldenwood, Mavis met with the local tinkerer in the military camp, a rock gnome named Tanston Tiddlywink. Tanston demonstrated some of his inventions to Mavis, some of which Mavis found mildly interesting. When Mavis inquired as to where he might be able to procure rare and special ores and materials so that he could finally open up his shop, Mavis's Mechanical Marvels, Tanston insisted that Mavis must go to the Inventory, a biannual event that is held in Sprocketon, a city of rock gnomes. Tanston explained that the next event would be in about a month, which Mavis made sure to make notes for. And then Tanston demonstrated a few of his inventions to Mavis in an attempt to sell them to him. While Mavis was mostly unimpressed with a modified mug, he did make a partial trade for a shield with repulsive properties. Zeus expressed a curiosity as to how Tauren was able to see the tethers connected to the portal, to which Tauren replied that he used magics of his own to be able to see them himself, and that he could possibly make a scroll for a single spell that Zeus could attempt to use, though it would take some time for him to complete, and with that, the party headed back to Baygrove. After about 4 hours of travel, nearing sunset at this time, the party ran into Leonard Duncan, the captain in Baygrove, who introduced the party to one of their scouts, a man named Daryl, who had reluctantly followed the trail of the beast that emerged from the Geldenwood in an attempt to track it down. Though Daryl was much more comfortable simply being a scout, and had no desire for combat whatsoever, he led the party in the direction of the Barlgura, eventually returning to Baygrove once his job was done. The party found a clearing where the forest had apparently become filled with death and decay. Surrounding trees had lost their leaves, the bark had become rotten, and the ground became soft and swampy, with creeping vines overgrowing much of the area. In the center of the clearing stood a single tall tree, still seemingly alive, with some mysterious purple light emanating from it. As the party approached to inspect the tree, Zeus spotted some strange purple orb in the center of this tree, which appeared to be a hollow tree. As Zeus just barely caught the noise of leaves rustling from above, and looked up to see the silhouette of the Barlgura falling straight toward them. Just barely stepping out of the way in time, the party engaged the fiend. In the midst of the battle, several vines emerged from the ground and wrapped around the entire party, holding them in place and eventually emitting some sort of necrotic energy into them. Mavis was knocked unconscious by the Barlgura's relentless attacks, and just as it raised its fist in an attempt to kill Mavis's unconscious body, Zeus released a chromatic orb of acid that pierced straight through the creature, leaving a large hole through its chest as it dissolved into a shadowy mist that retreated into the tree. After Gar healed Mavis back to consciousness, the party discovered an opening in the tree that revealed the purple orb within, which Mavis proceeded to explode using a combination of a bomb and his miniature mechanical explosive device. As the orb, amorphous in nature, dissipated into the air, the party witnessed a tether manifest, connecting the orb to the portal, as it too was severed. Mavis took some time to inspect Gar's holy symbol, proclaiming that it was merely a useless trinket and couldn't have been the thing that brought him back to life. Gar stuck true to Melora, as his holy symbol nearly blinded Mavis with a flash of light, and though Mavis still believed that the trinket must be laced with science in some way, Laren stated that science cannot describe everything in this world. The party decided to make their way back to Elmas, the unicorn protecting the Geldenwood, to inform him that the evil had been purged from the forest. After a couple hours of travel and some particularly good navigation from Laren, the party arrived back at Elmas's lair, as the unicorn expressed his gratitude for the party's expulsion of the corruption. Mavis decided to try the water from the stream that Gar and Zeus had tried before, as it created a vortex of water with a ferocity that could not have been expected from a gnome his size. He exclaimed that the water was indeed quite refreshing. Zeus spoke to Elmas in Celestial, a beautiful language that the party had not yet heard Zeus speak, and couldn't understand themselves, as he asked Elmas if he knew anything about the First Age, to which Elmas replied that he did not, but reassured Zeus to trust his instincts and his dedication, and he'll find the answers he seeks. As the party laid down in the grass to rest, there still remains 2 tethers to sever, until this portal is hopefully gone for good.